As I sit down to dinner with my parents and siblings, I can usually expect to find good food, a relaxed atmosphere, a few jokes, and always, yes always, mysterious secrets shot off in rapid-fire Hindi conversation. It's not the rapid-fire part that bothers me. My parents could speak Hindi as slow as they wanted, and I still wouldn't be able to understand a word. And this is actually quite a normal occurrence for me, as Hindi is my family's home language. A home language can be defined as a language most commonly spoken by members of a family for everyday interactions at home. So Hindi was always heard, especially at every single one of my extended family's regular Sunday dinners together. Being that I couldn't speak Hindi, I almost always had to redirect my attention from my elders who spoke this incomprehensible language that was alien to me, to my cousins and siblings who were as comfortable speaking English as I was. Most conversations then ended up with my grandfather, with my grandparents, and even in some cases my great-grandfather, being forced to speak English or Thai in order to communicate with me. I now realize, though, that my elders shouldn't be the one having to bear this burden in order to accommodate me, but rather I should be the one stepping forward and trying to learn Hindi in order to communicate with them. I started to question, though, why don't I know Hindi, especially as I hear it so often in my everyday life? Here are my conclusions. Language is the driver of information and communication technology. It is not only the tool for transmitting this knowledge and information, but it has made social integration, cultural identity, development and sustainability a reality. However, with the advent of globalization, language use has become much more homogenized, and linguistic minorities are slowly but surely drifting further and further away from their home cultures and native tongues. My grandfather was one such immigrant who experienced these effects of globalization as he escaped the chaos of the 1947 India-Pakistan partition, eventually making his way over to Thailand, where he started a family, raising my father as a first-generation Thai and me as a second-generation Thai. My grandfather also set the precedent for an international-based education in the family by sending my father and his siblings to an international school. My father, though, still acquired Hindi as he was sent to a boarding school in India for 2 years when he was very young. Being immersed in a completely pure Indian environment set the perfect conditions for my father to start speaking Hindi, and my mother was put into a very similar situation as well. I, on the other hand, lacked this experience, lacked this exposure, which is the main reason why I do not speak Hindi today. While I received the benefits of an English language-based education, my drive for sports and academics left little to no time for me to acquire this vital aspect of my cultural identity. But I could speak English with my family and friends, and my grandparents understood some Thai as well. So to be honest, not knowing Hindi never really troubled me. This was until I attended an Indian family wedding in which my friend, who was approximately the same age as me, was shooting off the same rapid-fire Hindi with elders who embraced his skill with pride. I was the only one there who did not know how to speak Hindi. I felt isolated. My cultural experience at the wedding felt ambiguous. I questioned my identity. It was then that I realized that one's language, especially their home language, is not just a tool for communicating, but it is and acts as an indicator for cultural identity. The relationship between language and culture is deeply rooted, and one may be able to foster a deeper connection to their parents, family, relatives, history, culture, and religion through the use of their home language. Being unaware of one's language, culture, or history can leave one with no other option than to seek an alternate identity. But what about in our classrooms? Learning in one's home language has also been linked to academic growth as well. Having a strong foundation in one's home language can contribute to developing stronger literacy skills in other languages potentially learned at school, as a student can transfer their knowledge and abilities across languages. A study conducted by the George Mason University found that younger students who had enrolled in a second language immersion program often outperformed students who didn't in coursework, standardized tests, and throughout their scholastic careers. Basically, those who had the opportunity to learn in their home language did better than those who didn't. Now, embracing one's home language is clearly an extremely important issue. But to what extent are our home languages being represented in everyday life? What is our community, especially one as diverse as ISB, doing to promote the use of home language among young children? As we walk through the hallways entering ISB, the number of colorful flags flying above our heads clearly represents the diversity of the nationalities of our peers. But it wasn't until only a few years ago that our languages were represented as well. To name a particular example, there are approximately 40 different mother tongues belonging to students at ISB. However, in the classrooms, most of these languages are invisible. Only last year were Korean and Japanese added as mother tongue elective courses in the middle school, and the time allocated for students to learn in their home language will only increase next year. While I commend ISB for making this important change, more still needs to be done. As I am currently a junior taking the IB diploma program, I'm required to take a language other than English. I chose to take Spanish. Now, I consider myself to be a Thai-born, non-Hindi speaking Indian who studies in English and is currently taking a Spanish class. Simple, right? Having taken Spanish for approximately half a year, I felt like I've picked up enough to have some small conversations with my friends. But it got me to think, if I can learn Spanish, a language completely unrelated to my origin and identity, why aren't I learning my home language? After all, I have a family full of teachers waiting for me at home. Learning other languages is clearly beneficial, but one shouldn't forget about their home language. Everyone has the need to belong. We need to realize the importance of staying connected to our home language as much as possible. So I challenge you to immerse yourselves by watching movies, reading books, and listening to music in your home language, and try to incorporate what you've learned into conversation with your parents and extended family as well. It is never too late. At home, I've started to incorporate more and more Hindi into my life. And who knows, maybe soon enough, I'll be able to decipher the mysterious secrets that my parents are saying behind my back at the dinner table. Aapka bahut bahut dhanyavad. Or in other words, thank you very much.